Welcome back to the most unprofessional sports podcast in the world. I am your host, Zach Circle Burkle, here with my co host today, Aaron, Siege, and Joe. Go ahead and say hi, guys.
Hi guys.
What's going on?
What's happening?
All right, so talk a little NBA today. All Star Weekend just got finished up this past weekend. Also got some WBC rosters for the United States have been released, so we'll talk about that a little bit. And then maybe wrap it up with a little bit of NFL off-season talk. And Siege has a special little surprise for us here at the end of the podcast. But starting off in the NBA with All-Star Weekend, ratings came out for the actual All-Star game. They were the lowest in NBA or in history, in the game's history. Obviously, All Star Weekend is starting to kind of fall flat with fans. Slam dunk contest hasn't been too exciting these last few years. Even though Mac McClung did put on a show this year, he is a G Leaguer, so it's kind of sad that we need to ask these G League players to come up and participate in these dunk contests as opposed to any guys who actually get some NBA run. No offense to Mac McClung, of course. But then, and also, like, I mean, really, I guess the biggest thing right now is the 3-point contest because that's the that's the cool thing to do in basketball now is to shoot the three real well. But even that, we had people like Julius Randle who didn't deserve to be in it this year. Over people like other I can't think of anybody off the top of my head, but Julius
Isaiah
Randle.
Joe.
Who?
Isaiah Joe.
Isaiah Joe, yeah, there you go. Yeah, I forgot he was hitting. He was clutch from three this year. I mean, there was a bunch of other candidates other than Julius Randle, but for some reason he got the nod. And it wasn't even like a hometown thing because the All Star game was in Utah this year. It wasn't even in New York. But kind of want to get your guys' opinions on it. I guess I'll start with you, Aaron. Do you think the All Star weekend is dead in the NBA?
Uh, they need to find a way to make it more exciting. That's for sure. I mean, who was it that said the All Star game was like a glorified layup line? I mean, it's true. You don't. There's nothing exciting about just watching pros run back and forth, shooting from as deep as they can, or making dunks with no defense.
Right.
So it's dumb, and we kind of talked about this earlier, about maybe like some possible solutions for it. So I don't.
Yeah, we'll get into some
I don't know.
possible. We'll get into some possible solutions here in a second. But before we do, I just want to kind of get the other guys' opinions on it. Siege, what do you think about the NBA All Star Weekend? Do you think, like, obviously improvements need to be made somewhere, but what do you think the key issue is with it right now?
I think the key issue is there's nothing to play for. Like it's just like y'all are saying, it's literally just a glorified layup line. I mean, people are scared to get hurt during the All Star break.
Which is understandable.
And I mean, you saw it with LeBron. Like LeBron, the one time he tried to play defense and blocked Shea, he hurt his hand and had to come out of the game.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like it's kind of weird. But I mean, he plays however many games in the season and doesn't hurt his hand on that same exact play every other
Right.
time. So I don't know. I'll be honest. I didn't watch hardly any of the game. I barely watched the dunk contest.
Yeah.
I mean, I paid attention to Mac McClung just because I liked watching his videos when he was in high school and he was dunking and coming up with crazy dunks in high school.
Right.
So I like Mac McClung. I think he put on a great show.
Oh, for sure.
I think that's kind of where the NBA does good stuff when they bring these not no name guys, but guys that have a special talent in like specifically dunking, like Mac McClung.
Sure.
And I mean that's entertaining, but the rest of it's just not entertaining at all.
Right. Yeah, me and Joe even talked about right afterwards. I made the comment that Mac McClung winning, if you're going to bring up people like Mac McClung to participate in it, again, no offense to him, but he's only played 2 games in the NBA his entire career. So it's not like he's, a 12th man on the roster kind of guy. He's like an afterthought for the most part. Um, and like I made the comment that you might as well just bring in these like and one guys and professional dunkers to participate in it because like I mean, if you're not getting actual NBA players, then what's the point in getting G leaguers when you can get people who are like do this for a living? Um,
Like that Jordan Kilgannon guy
Right,
or whatever.
exactly. Yeah, people like that. But what do you think, Joe? What are your thoughts on NBA weekend? It's All Star weekend.
I agree. I mean, it's boring when the 3-point contest becomes the most exciting event to watch. And it really is, because at least 3-point shooting, I get it. You're not really going to get hurt. Nothing's going to happen. So you can get the best guys like
Right.
Steph, Dame, and Tatum, like things like that. But, I mean, if we're doing like dunk contests, like, yeah, Jordan Kilgannon, like, dude, go get some street dudes that can fly, that'll come up with some real creativity and do some crazy stuff that no one's seen before. If we're not going to stick to at least NBA guys.
Yeah.
Props to McClung. Shout out to him, though, for was like won 100K,
Oh yeah.
and then he just Puma
And he,
now
like, doubled
after
his
that.
salary.
Yeah, he got a
So like,
he got a scholar or not a scholarship. He got an endorsement with Puma.
yeah, so like, good for him. Like, way to make the best of your opportunity. He did put on a good show. He probably had the most creative dunks. He was the only one to land all of them on the first try.
That
like,
was I'll definitely give him credit for that. We haven't seen that at all recently.
Yeah.
People hitting it on the first try every single time.
and he wouldn't hold a candle to guys like Zach LaVine and Aaron Gordon.
No.
But like at that point, like if everybody's gonna say no, we got to go something else. Like you just kind of got to switch it up. The All-Star game is terrible to watch just because there's no defense. I get it, dudes don't want to get hurt, but I mean, if we're gonna do that, do what the NFL did, switch up the game, just turn it into an entire weekend of just different events or something to
Right.
just put something out there because it had less viewers than the Pro Bowl games did.
Which
Those
is
were just
sad.
games; they weren't even playing anything. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's the sad part about it.
Yeah. Well, let's get into that a little bit. Like, obviously, a lot of people have been saying that they need to make changes to it, but the only changes they seem to make is instead of it being East versus West, they have people draft their teams, and now it's draft them in front of a live audience right before the game, which I did think was cool. I didn't mind that. I thought that was a pretty cool touch.
And draft the reserves first. Is
Right,
The next
yeah.
Is the thing they want to do, or that they're doing, right?
Yeah, they did the
Like,
reserves first.
so there's
and
no
then the
last pick.
Right,
Like,
yeah. So there's
come
no
on
like
now.
real last pick because you're still
Participation
starting at the
trophies
end of
here
the day.
now.
Right, yeah, that's kind of lame. But I know. I think Aaron brought up potentially bringing in a 1v1 tournament. I think that would be really cool, even if it's not in place of the actual game. Maybe in like a King of the Court type situation in place of the dunk contest. I think that would be pretty sick. Obviously, people aren't going to go 100%, but going like it's still going to be more entertaining because people at least pull off some crazy ass shots as opposed to trying to dunk while crossing under two legs in the air. But what do you think, Aaron? What are some other ideas that you maybe have for making All Star Weekend better?
Well, this one just kind of popped into my head because you were talking about McClung being like a G Leaguer. Maybe we do like all of the same events, but for like the G League players, the best players in the G League, and then whoever like wins, their team gets an exception for like a contract for the end of the season, so they get to stay with their NBA team, and if they play, they play, but at least they get a shot,
Right.
at some practices, maybe some minutes, who knows? But I mean, they give them something to play for, something to really give
Yeah.
them some motivation.
Yeah, I don't know all the logistics of the G League affiliates of the NBA teams because I know that you can sign players from other G League affiliates out of the G League if you wanted to, kind of like a practice squad situation. So I don't know how that would be able to work exactly, but it's a really cool idea. I like the idea of bringing in the G Leaguers to play for an NBA contract. That's definitely going to be more exciting, and people are going to be more competitive than what's going on now. What do you think, Joe? You got any other ideas other than the 1v1 tournament and then maybe play for a contract? That's pretty very WWE-esque, but I like it.
Yeah, one thing I think I would really like to see would be, I've seen it out there before, is USA versus World. If the
Oh,
players are
yeah.
gonna play hard,
We can do
just
that now.
all the best foreign players. Yeah, now, or even if you do like a shortened like 1/4 of the 5 best USA to 5 best world players and let them go at it. Like 1/4 hard basketball. Maybe put some money on the line for each of those teams. Like You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
mean, you could do reserve roster too, but I'm just trying to think of a different event. Like I think some or the one-on-one, but I honestly don't know how many dudes are gonna go one-on-one just because that's gonna expose you real quick too if you go out there
That's a
and
good
just get
point. Yeah.
dogged
But
by
that's the thing.
not even the best guy.
Right, but we'll get to see the guys that are like they are confident enough in their abilities to go do that, and I think that'd be pretty sick. And I think
Exactly.
a lot of the top guys would. I mean, like I bet you KD would be out there. I bet you Steph would be out there. I don't know. I bet you LeBron would be out there. Uh, to an extent, maybe not anymore because he's hurt. He's worried he's gonna get injured at this age. But
Kyrie would.
Kyrie definitely
That boy would
yeah.
go.
I think
People
Luca
would talk
would.
so much crap about him, and he would go out there and put on a
I-
show against. Some
I
of them
think
dudes.
Luca would participate in the dunk contest if he had the hops, but we all know he wouldn't be able to actually do that. But I think he'd want to. I think he'd definitely be down if he was asked. What do you think, Siege? You got any ideas for ways to improve the All-Star weekend?
Not necessarily any like event ideas or anything like that. I just think there needs to be something to play for, something worth to play for, I guess. Because
Yeah,
I mean, we've seen it with the NFL, we've seen it with the NBA. Like the viewership is just down because there's nothing to play for and nobody plays hard. And that's what viewers want to see: competitive basketball, competitive football, competitive baseball, whatever sport it is. They want to see people compete, and that's just not happening anymore during these all-star events.
very true. Yeah. I
don't know
mean,
how to change that necessarily, but yeah.
right. Yeah, I mean, that seems to be partially the issue. Is that the thing I guess technically they do play for something. They play for money towards a charity, but
Yeah, but they don't care.
right, yeah, let's be honest.
Either way, the money's going to charity.
Right,
know?
exactly. So I definitely think they need something to play for to make it more exciting. Obviously, the MLB All-Star Game was much more exciting back when they played for home field advantage of the World Series. I know a lot of people would argue that, like, oh, well, half the roster, they knew they weren't going to have a chance with the World Series, so they wouldn't care about that. But at the end of the day, I think just the competitive nature of an athlete, knowing they're actually playing for something as opposed to literally not playing for anything, would like comes out of them, and they end up giving their all regardless. But yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of ways they can fix it. It's just whether or not they will, because obviously at the end of the day, they're just trying to put on a show for the fans as best they can without any injury happening, because obviously that would be a disaster if someone tore their ACL in the All-Star game. That would or the slam dunk contest. That would be a catastrophic hit to the NBA. They would probably end up shutting down at least some sort of event at that point while they try to figure it out. I don't know how they would go about that, but I understand why they do it. It's not exciting. That's everyone's problem with it. But moving on to the actual like regular season NBA stuff. Now that we're about halfway, or I guess a little over halfway through the season, because the All-Star Game's like 60 games in for some reason. But I figure we could make some pre or mid-season predictions, at least as far as we may be able to do awards too if you guys are up for that. But mainly to do with like potential contenders, maybe like our Eastern Conference and Western Conference Finals matchups, and then who we think are going to advance to the finals, and then we can save our actual finals pick obviously for later down the road. But I brought up the standings on ESPN for us to look at while we do this, just to kind of give us some reference points. Starting off in the Eastern Conference, I guess we'll start with you, Joe. Who do you see coming out of the Eastern Conference, at least making to the conference finals, I should say, right now, just looking at these teams and how they've done so far this season?
I think it's a rematch. I got Boston,
Okay.
Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Boston this season, like even after losing the finals, like this season is just, they're playing like they now wholeheartedly believe that they belong with anybody on the court.
Right.
and they're out there running teams. Jalen Brown, Jason Tatum balling out. So I think they're gonna do it. I know no one's really talking about the Bucks, but they're balling out too. I think they have the same record. They're one game behind the Celtics, so I think them alone are they're like 3, 4 games ahead of the next team. So I think those two right there.
Yeah, I mean the three powerhouses in the East kind of are Boston, Milwaukee, Philly. Philly's just a team to watch out for because it is Embiid and Harden at the end of the day. But I think Boston, Milwaukee are kind of a cut above anybody else in the East right now. Um, so it'll be interesting to see how it finishes up down the stretch of this regular season. What do you think, Aaron? Who do you think is going to match up in the Eastern Conference Finals right now?
It's kind of like the two obvious best teams. So I do agree with Joe. And
Yeah.
yeah, he said like nobody's talking a lot about the Bucks, but that's just kind of because they've got arguably one of the best players in the league,
Well, they've been there, done
and yeah, they've been there, done that before. So they're just kind of flying under the radar because they're kind of expected to be there.
that.
So
Right.
yeah, I agree with Joe.
Yeah, the Eastern Conference is definitely a little bit more clear cut than the Western Conference. Obviously, when we get to that point, we'll see just how crowded the Western Conference is, and it's really anybody's game over there in that other conference. But it really does seem to be between those two teams, Boston and Milwaukee, right now. With Philly maybe having a chance, and honestly, I'm sorry to any Cleveland fans who may be watching, but Cleveland's just a little too young, I think, to make an actual run at the chip. Especially when you have teams who have, they're battle tested at this point in Milwaukee and Boston. And I mean, Embiid and Harden have been through so much playoff heartbreak, you can never count them out at this point. So I kind of agree with both of you. Just to kind of get my pick out of the way, Boston, Milwaukee seems like the obvious choice right now. I wouldn't mind seeing Philadelphia in the Eastern Conference Finals as a Boston fan though, because we do seem to run them every single time we play them in the playoffs. Milwaukee always seems to be a little bit more of a dogfight. So, what do you think, Siege? Who's your two teams coming out of the East?
I think I'm gonna kind of grab y'all's coattails here and ride with y'all with Boston and Milwaukee. But I would like to see Cleveland do well.
I would too.
the playoffs
It'd be
come around,
cool.
because seeing a young team like that kind of have a little bit of success in the playoffs would be fun and exciting.
Yeah.
So I mean, I would like to see Cleveland succeed, but I think Boston and Milwaukee are just above pretty
Yeah.
much one, except for maybe Philly. I mean, Philly's
Right.
always going to be a wild card in that
Yeah.
conference.
Philly's the only team with a chance that has even close to the amount of experience Boston and Milwaukee does. Miami has a similar amount of experience, but they're just so far down there right now. It's hard for me to see them coming up. But who knows? They just added Kevin
Miami's
Love.
my sleeper.
Miami's a good sleeper because they just added Kevin Love. Obviously, we all know Jimmy Butler's that guy. Kevin Love's probably going to add tons of spacing for Bam Adebayo in the middle, which is terrifying to think of because Bam Adebayo running to the rim is scary. He's as good as anybody as a rim runner in the NBA. So adding Kevin
Yeah,
Love
just
to that
ask
team, I think,
Tatum.
can really open him up. Do what?
Just ask Tatum about about
Yeah,
Adebayo around the rim.
yeah.
He does it on both ends.
Yes, he does. Yes, Bam Adebayo is one of my favorite players in the league. I love watching him play. But I mean, other than those three teams at the top, there's really and then Miami is a sleeper. I do like that pick, Joe. I just don't see anybody else in the East coming out of that conference. Atlanta was a cute story a couple years ago, but they add DeJounte Murray and they're worse, which is crazy. John Collins can't seem to fit in. It's a weird situation down there in Atlanta. There's no reason for them not being good, but they're just not. And then Brooklyn obviously just traded away their two big pieces in KD and Kyrie, so they're going to end up falling down the standings. And then the Knicks are the Knicks, so the Knicks are going to nick, and they're not going to play well in the playoffs. So it's really the East is so clear cut right now. It's kind of already over at this point. But let's move on to a conference that's a little bit more competitive over here in the West. And I kind of wish I could get the Lakers on here because they are a playoff contender at this point after the trades they made at the deadline. So let me see if I can actually zoom out a little bit. But never mind. Here we go. Okay. So there we go. Now we got the Western Conference all the way down. Denver obviously running the West right now, but they can never seem to win when it matters in the playoffs for whatever reason. Another big story: Kyrie Irving got added to the Dallas Mavericks, as well as KD getting added to the Suns. So it's kind of appropriate that they're right next to each other in the standings right now. But expect both of those, or at least the Suns, to move up. Kyrie's situations are always a little bit more, confusing. You can never know what way the team's going to go. So Dallas could really go either way at this point. Obviously, Golden State's still way down there, mainly due to injuries. Once they get healthy and going, I see no reason they don't move up the standings and clinch a playoff spot as opposed to a play-in spot. And then we got Siege's Oklahoma City Thunder down there clinging on to the 10 seed. Obviously, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander and running for Most Improved Player of the Year. He's playing out of his mind, and the Thunder look like they're a team to be reckoned with a little bit. They could surprise some teams in the playoffs. Maybe win a play-in game, sneak into the playoffs, and maybe win a couple games against a 1 or 2 seed. Who knows? But I guess I'll start with you, Aaron. Who do you see coming out of the West right now as your top 2 teams meeting up in the Western Conference Finals?
I gotta have faith in my MPJ to help Jokic out and get their Nuggets out there.
Okay.
But then it's close to me. I do have some depth concerns about the Suns, whether or not when if it's just KD out there with the bench, is there going to be enough help out there so that he's not just getting like triple teamed, or if it's just D-Book out there with the bench, is there going to be enough help? So it's between the Suns and the Grizzlies for me.
See, I'm not that confident in the Grizzlies, to be honest. I mean, they're terrible on the road this year. You can see they're 11-17. Um, I think the Grizzlies are immature. They're playing a little above their talent right now. No, maybe not above their talent, but they're a little ahead of schedule, I guess I should say, with their rebuild. I personally, I just think the Grizzlies are destined to fizzle out in the first or second round this year. Probably not the first, especially if they hang on to a 2 seed. I don't know if I see that. Unless they face Golden State in the first round, then I could definitely see them losing. But I don't see them losing to a Pelicans, Timberwolves, or Thunder team. I could maybe see them losing to the Lakers. Now that the Lakers have kind of, picked themselves up by their bootstraps, and all the trades they made have just drastically improved the roster. We'll get into
I don't know if they picked themselves up by their bootstraps, picked them up for their money bags.
I mean, I don't. They made some incredible. They made some incredible trades. I don't know how the hell the other teams let them get away with this, but they honestly they got an entire 5-man rotation this trade deadline, and it's absurd. I don't know how they did it. But moving on to you, go ahead, Siege. What do you think about the Western Conference with your Thunder being in it? Obviously, are they destined for a Cinderella run to the Western Conference Finals this year? What do you think?
No, they're not.
Oh, damn.
But when you look at the Western Conference, it's so tight. Like from the 3
it's much
seed
more
to
fun.
12th seed, it's a 4.5 game spread. Like anything can happen the next or the rest of the season, and you could see the Trailblazers being the 3 seed. Like it's possible. There's only 4.5 game difference between the 3 and the 12. So it's kind of early to call with all the trades that went down, especially with the Suns and the Lakers and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I think the Nuggets will probably end as a 1 seed because the Nuggets are disgusting. They have been all year. And I don't know. I kind of have the same hesitation as Aaron with the Suns. I mean, obviously adding Kevin Durant is a great addition. You should do that every time you have the chance. But what they gave away were a lot of their role players, and I don't know about the depth that they have.
They still didn't give up as much as I thought they'd have to.
No, they didn't give up as much as I thought they had to either, but they did give up key role players in their system, so it'll be interesting to see kind of how that plays out with when those two are out there alone with the bench, like Aaron was saying.
Yeah.
So
yeah, Chris Paul.
I mean, I don't know. I don't really know who my next team would be. Besides the Nuggets, I think it's just going to be kind of one of those things where it's so tight. Whoever is on the best run at the right time is going to be up there with them.
I'll pencil in the Thunder for you.
Okay, I'll take it.
All right, Joe, what do you think? What do you obviously, you're a Lakers fan. Lakers could really make a run here. They're only 2.5 games out of ninth place right now. Just added like I said earlier, they brought in an entire 5-man rotation in Malik Beasley, Jared Vanderbilt, D'Lo, Mo Bamba, and the other guy whose name I can't remember right now. Do you remember? Help me out, maybe.
Rui Hachimura.
Rui Hachimura, thank you. Yes. So obviously they've completely overhauled their roster. They still got LeBron and AD, two of the best in the league. Do you think your Lakers can make a run up at the Western Conference Finals this year after all these trading at the deadline? Obviously, LeBron's done it before. In 2018, he traded the entire roster away, other than Kevin Love, and made the finals. So he's done it before. Can he do it again?
I mean, why the hell we gotta wait till the damn trade deadline to figure that out? I don't know why it ain't that long in the season for them to figure out. Hey, might be time to make a change here, like 500. But yeah, I'm gonna go out and kind of say something about Western Conference. I'm gonna take Golden State Lakers.
Ooh, I love that pick because it's like
the Nuggets. I agree with Siege, man. They've been on it all year.
For sure.
They really have. I don't think they're gonna do it in the playoffs. I think they'll choke it in the playoffs.
I don't think
again.
either. They choke every year.
Yeah, every year, right?
Every year.
I like the Grizz. Don't think they're there with the playoff experience.
Yep, same.
Kings. The Clippers, honestly, are another team. I like the Clippers more than the Suns, if healthy. If fully healthy, like this year, they have a different kind of team. You know, I know they have the core guys, but I hate the Clippers. I don't want them to be there, but I'd like to think maybe for once they can at least get to the big time game.
They've made it there once. They lost because Kawhi was hurt.
They probably still would have lost, but
I can't remember who they played.
I'm going
the Suns. They played the
Golden
Suns.
State. Oh, that was the Phoenix year.
Yep.
That was just Phoenix's year too, but
They won.
I like Golden State and the
Stars are
Lakers.
alive.
I think if Golden State gets healthy, there's way too much playoff experience on that team to not take them seriously.
Yeah.
And so I think if they get back healthy and they're firing on all cylinders, kind of like CJ, whoever has that momentum, and if they get healthy and get their starters going again, like that's a dangerous team that you don't want coming in hot to the playoffs.
Oh yeah.
If the Lakers figure out chemistry and they ball out again, like you said, just LeBron being LeBron, and if a healthy Anthony Davis, like you don't want to see those guys on the other side of the court either. So I don't know who else to pick. So I'm gonna take my own team with the Lakers, and I still think Golden State might have one last push in them before possible departures happen.
Yeah. I mean, Golden State's I think Golden State's being slept on. However, I do not think they're making it to the Western Conference Finals because I think it's the Clippers' year to make it to the finals. I think they're going to lose the Celtics in the finals, but I think it's their year to make it to the finals. And I think with the Suns adding KD, I think they're going to make it to the conference finals. And then they're going to lose because Kawhi clamps up KD, Paul George clamps up D Book, and Russell Westbrook and Chris Paul get into a fight or something, and they're both out Game 7. I don't know. But I think those are the two teams that I'm going to take going into the Western Conference Finals. Ironic, it's going to be Westbrook versus KD after all these years in the conference finals. We finally get to see it. It's going to be really fun. But I mean, I think they made the perfect additions they needed to make. The Clippers also got Mason Plumlee from the Charlotte Hornets, who is absolutely terrible on defense, but he averages like 13, 14 points a game on offense, and he's going to get you 10 boards. So
You're not dying with him on the court.
Right, exactly. He's a really solid backup big. He's not starting for them. They still have Zubac, who is a really, really underrated big. He's above average for sure. Probably top 15, I'd say. Maybe closer to top 10 than top 15, though.
He's cutting that 10 line.
Yeah, like he's really close to that 10 line. He's a really solid big in the NBA. And then you add Russell Westbrook, who I think he's going to come in there. He has a rapport with Paul George in the past. He knows Kawhi at this point. Like him, I think he'll gel better with Kawhi and Paul George because they're not as in your face as LeBron is, in a sense. They're a lot more laid back. Their personalities are, and then obviously him and Paul George have a former working relationship. But then also the team recruited him pretty strongly, even being a buyout candidate as opposed to like a normal trade acquisition. So I think he's in the perfect situation now. He's kind of out with something to prove too after the Lakers situation went so poorly. So I think
Well, and right now he's fighting for sixth man of the year, so that just
that
gives
too.
like giving Russ any motivation, especially with like something like an award that even proves him being that good off the bench.
Right.
Like, I don't, yeah. Along with everything else he has going with him, I don't want to add that on top of it. It's
Yeah.
kind of recipe for disaster.
And
for some
Russ
teams.
is a guy who feeds off of that emotion. Like he's
Exactly.
if he thinks somebody doubted him, he's gonna play harder. And then let's not forget about the addition of Eric Gordon, who's also an incredible acquisition they got before the trade deadline. He's a great 3-and-D guy.
Good for him getting out of Houston.
Yeah, and
finally.
really good for him getting out of Houston. What I've heard is he's actually playing defense again now that he's on a contender as opposed to a bottom feeder, which is
Well,
great
what's
to
the
hear.
point of playing defense when you're
Right.
losing by 30 anyways?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm really happy for him. He's going to be a great sixth man for that team, assuming Russ starts. Because I'm guessing they're going to have Russ, Paul George. Unless you want him to start at the 2. That's a pretty solid starting lineup. Russ, Eric Gordon, Paul George, Kawhi, and Zubats. Like, that's a great starting 5 right there. And then also off the bench, you got that Mason Plumlee. You got Terrence Mann, I think, because Trey Mann plays for the Thunder. And then you also got who are the guys they got? Robert Covington and Norman Powell. Like you got a great second
Norman
unit
Powell
right
is
there
tearing
too.
it up this season too.
Yeah.
Norman Powell's killing it.
And that's the thing. If you want Eric Gordon to come off the bench, then you can just start Norman Powell. Or if you want that extra scoring punch with Norman Powell, then you have him be the sixth man. Like they are just set
And
up.
Powell plays defense too.
Yes.
Like they now have the two
and
best
Robert
defenders are
Covington's
both always hurt.
Robert
So
Covington
now
can
you
play
can
a
take
little
load off.
5 if you really need him to.
Mhm.
Now that they got Mason Plumlee, you probably won't. But if you
Well,
want
if
to
they
really play
Golden State,
small
that's
ball,
perfect.
yeah, if you really want to play small ball, put Rocco out there at the 5, and he's a solid 3-and-D. So I think the Clippers are really set up for success this postseason, and then obviously we all know with the Suns. Ironically, the only problem with them is the depth. They have a great top 5 players right there in KD, Chris Paul, Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, and then really it doesn't matter who you put at the 4. But I'm guessing you would probably put Torrey Craig in at the 3 and maybe play KD at the 4. Regardless of who you put there, though, great starting 5, one of the best in the league. And Kevin Durant, I think, is. This would this make a. Okay, that's an interesting question. I want all your guys' opinions on this. Would this be his team that he came in? Because he's technically the best player on the team. I know he was in Golden State, or some would argue he wasn't. But would him winning a title with the Phoenix Suns be like his validation, like the one he's been looking for this whole time? You know, where he's like the leader and all that. I guess I'll start with you, Joe. What do you think?
If he balls out in the finals like he did with Golden State and got the MVP, if he does that and shows that, yeah, if I'm not here, this team doesn't win. And I mean, yeah, I think that would be it because you're going in mid-season,
and they proved they couldn't do it without him. Like it's not like Golden State where they did it before he got there. They proved they could not win it without him if they were to win. You know, so
exactly. I mean, with Golden State, not the best thing that happened to KD, but one of the things that showed how much of an impact he truly had was when he tried to come back early from that Achilles and damn near scared Raptors fans to death that they weren't going to pull that out.
Yeah.
But then just to get hurt, it showed that, yeah, Golden State, they could win it on their own, obviously. They showed that.
They've done it twice now.
With a guy like
before,
KD.
once after.
Exactly. but doing it with KD, like everyone in the league knew that they were that team. If he does that with Phoenix, I think it just shows like, okay, yeah, if it just we can carry a team by himself still, but it at least proves that nope, he's that guy. He clutches up. He plays the big game.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think, Aaron? Do you think this would kind of validate KD's legacy as be like? Would this be like his team, as opposed to in Golden State it was clearly Steph's team? Would this be like his version of like, this is my team? Even though Devin Booker and Chris Paul, they made it to the finals, but they didn't win it. And they really, if we're being honest, they really weren't close to winning. They lost in 6, could have easily been 5. Giannis and the Bucks were way better than them that year. And the Suns, well, ironically, at that time, depth was the problem there because they got Dario Saric went out, and all of a sudden they had no backup big. Could easily be the bug that bites them again this year in the playoffs. But what do you think? But let's focus back on the KD thing. I keep getting lost out here in these tangents. Do you think this would like validate his legacy?
I think that the NBA has like 2 different fan bases at the moment. You got the young guys, kind of like us, that see players for what they are and the league is for what it is. And then you have the old heads who grew up with MJ and players like that, where they really were like the true superstar on their team,
Right.
and they led them to the championship. Whereas you don't really see that nowadays. That the NBA, like, it's too competitive. You can't do it with just
and
one
there's
superstar.
just
You've
so
got to have
much.
multiple.
See, I've heard this argument that there was more talent. This was the first time I ever heard this argument, but I heard it earlier today. That there was more talent in the '90s, and I was taken aback. I was flabbergasted. I was like, "Are you high? Are you out of your mind? What do you mean there was more talent in the '90s? Every team has 2 superstars these days."
I don't know about talent-wise. I will say there's definitely more refined talent, more
Top
higher
end,
skill players,
right? Like more
than
top end
there used to be
talent.
now.
Yeah.
So I don't think to us he needs to prove anything. I don't know how you can say that it's his team. I mean, they're here, they're a playoff contender. Book's been there his entire career. So to me, it's Book's team. It's always going to be Book's team as long as he's
Right.
there. But it doesn't take away from either of their legacy if they win a championship.
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely wouldn't say that Katie joined a super team in this case, because it's really not. They don't have it. Like, yeah, Devin Booker's an all-star, but he's not by no means a top 10 player in the league, or even a top 15. I don't think I would say. Chris Paul's way past his prime. He's definitely not top 15. Probably not even top 20 at this point. So it'd be hard pressed to call that a super team. When LeBron joined the Heat, D Wade was a top 15 player. Chris Bosh was a top 20 player. When KD joined the Warriors, Steph was a top 10 player. Clay was a top 15 player. Like, it's completely different.
Steph was a top 5.
Well, yeah, I was just
boy.
No, but yeah, Steph was top 5, Clay was top 15. But yeah, you get what I mean. Like, I mean, these were like, you had 3 top 15 to top 20 players on your team, and that was considered a super team. Like, even when the big 3 Celtics got together, Paul Pierce was top 20, KG was top 10, and Ray Allen was top 20. So you may have only had one top 10 guy, but you had other 2 top 20s. Like, I think you need a lot more than just like, one all-star, one former all-star, and then you come in as, one of the best players in the league. Granted, Kevin Durant is a top 5 player in the league right now. I don't see how this is like there. You definitely can't use the super team argument for this team, for the Suns team, if you were to win the title. I just don't. I think it'd be completely different than the Golden State situation, obviously. But what do you think, Siege? You're the last one. Do you think this would, as an Oklahoma City fan, KD burned you a little bit. He hurt your guys' feelings. He went over to the Bay. Should have came to Boston, but that's beside the point. And he left y'all
West
high and
Coast, West
dry.
Coast, baby.
He left you high and dry with Russell Westbrook. Hey, Kyrie.
Okay.
And do you think that if he were to win the NBA title this year with the Phoenix Suns, would that validate his legacy?
I have no comments about the snake. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, I don't think he needs any validation necessarily. I mean, his game speaks for itself. He's one of the top players in the league. That's just how it
Right.
goes down. I mean, you even heard like legends talk about him. Like, I mean, Kobe Bryant. He said the one guy he couldn't figure out whenever he was done playing was Kevin Durant, because he finally developed being able to go to the left side and all that stuff. So whenever Kobe's saying he's the one guy that he couldn't figure out how to guard when he left the league, like that's validation in of itself. Now, I don't think him going to Phoenix, I don't think you can say it's his team. I agree with Aaron in this, and that it's D-Book's team. Like, I mean, are they playing right now? Is this their first game back today? Or?
Well, KD's still not healthy, so he's not playing.
Right.
If they are playing today, then he's not playing.
Okay, so but yeah, I don't think you can say it's like KD's team. If they were to win, say, yeah, I mean, it helps him, but I don't think he needs like validation and winning another chip necessarily. If he does win, then yeah, you can say, oh, the Phoenix Suns won because they got KD. I think that's kind of where that conversation goes. I don't think it's necessarily his team.
Right.
I think it'll be D-Book's team until D-Book's gone or whatever.
Right.
After
Well, I mean, you could say that. I mean, the Heat weren't LeBron's team; they were D Wade's team, really. The Celtics weren't KG's team; they were Paul Pierce's team. The Warriors obviously weren't KD's team; they were Steph's team. So you could say that for just about I mean, the number one player of all these super teams seemed to have one thing in common, and they weren't the person that was there from the beginning. They were the one that was brought in as a hired gun per se, to help win a title. And I mean, I think people forget how often that actually happens. Like, as if KD's the only superstar who's ever made a jump to a team who's already good. Like, the Heat were good with just D Wade, and LeBron brought Chris Bosh along with him. The Celtics,
D Wade won one, by the way.
right, exactly. D Wade had already won one by himself. With Shaq, but without LeBron or Chris Bosh, and Shaq was past his prime at that point, to an extent. But and then the Celtics. I mean, Paul Pierce and the Celtics were pretty bad before KG and Ray Allen got there, but they had made the playoffs with Paul Pierce alone and Antoine Walker before KG. So they had been decent even before KG and Ray Allen got there. They just weren't the year before. Same with D Wade and the Heat, actually. And then the same with the Warriors. They just happen to be good more recently than these other two teams were. So people forget that these other two teams were successful to an extent before these superstar. Because KG was the best player on that Boston Big Three. LeBron was the best player on that Heat Big Three. And KD was the best player on that Golden State Big Three. That's why Steph didn't win any Finals MVPs until this past year. So, but unless you guys have anything else to add, we kind of got to move past the NBA. We've been talking a little too long about that. Move on to the baseball world. The United States had announced their WBC roster for this upcoming. Excuse me. The United States had announced their upcoming WBC roster, and so I just figured we talk about that a little bit. And I know Clayton Kershaw backed out of it this year, Joe. Do you know anything about that? Go ahead and talk a little bit.
Insurance. He was trying to get insurance on his contract with the Dodgers in case he got hurt. He didn't lose any money. Couldn't get the insurance, so he had to back out of WBC.
Okay.
I'm happy that's what it ended up being. Well, hold on, Siege. Was that thank God you're happy he's out?
thank God that. Well, there's a little. Yeah, I mean, I don't want him to pitch. He's
That
bad.
messed
He's
up.
bad. Hey,
He was gonna be.
If
He
you
was gonna
think-
be the reason
if
they
you-
won it all. He
if-
was gonna be the guy.
If you think he's past his prime, Siege, get a load of this shit. Adam Wainwright's on the roster.
I love it.
What
Oh,
the
Yeah,
hell?
man. Hey,
He's
let him get
retired.
Let him get carried. Let him. He deserves it.
What
He's
the
throwing anything
hell?
he needs to.
Do
I
what?
guarantee that boy go out there, give 6 innings, no runs on 3 hits.
No, I hope
Against the
he starts
DR.
the game. I do. He deserves it. You're right. But I'm just like, what the hell? That just caught me off guard because he just retired this past year. Does that mean? No, it doesn't mean Yachty's. Well, Yachty's not American. Never mind.
No. he's
Yeah,
not.
he is.
Yeah,
That would
he
make
is.
sense why
He
he's
is
I
not.
actually realized that one.
That
He
would,
is coaching in WBC for Puerto Rico.
is he coaching? Okay.
Yep.
But he's not playing like Adam here is.
No, he's on the reserve, I'm sure. Yachty suit up
Yeah, he's
one
a
game.
Dude, that'd be
He's a
funny.
coach.
That'd be so funny if Yachty came out during the
That might
game
get
against.
hurt. He
Yeah.
just pops out of nowhere,
I'm-
throws a dude out.
I'm pretty sure Puerto Rico and the U.S. play in pool play, if I'm not mistaken. I think we're in the same pool. So
No, they're so
we're in. I thought it
We're
was
in
us,
Pool C.
Canada, Puerto Rico, and Mexico.
it's us, Mexico, Colombia, Canada, and Great Britain in Pool C. We
Why
will
do we
play.
Why do we
We'll
have
make it out.
Colombia and Great Britain?
Oh, you'll hold on. We'll make it out of pool, right? It'll either be
Well, yeah,
us,
those teams are trash.
Colombia, or Mexico.
Yeah.
And then, but the thing is, Pool D is on the other side, which is Puerto Rico,
Yeah.
Venezuela, Dominican Republic,
Yeah,
and then
that,
Israel and Nicaragua. But they
that
don't
might be
count.
the champs coming out of that division
Yeah.
if it ain't us.
Well, that's what
Them
we
boys look
had to
killer.
beat. Didn't we have to beat the DR and Puerto Rico last time to win?
Yeah, it's gonna happen.
That was a
in back-to-back
dog
games.
fight, bro. That was tough. And
Stroman, boy.
I think-
Stro show
yeah.
came out.
and then the
Oh.
Adam Jones catch against Manny Machado. Woo!
Yeah, I don't see us making that past quarterfinals, to be honest.
I don't like to hear
Because
that.
we're gonna have to play either probably Puerto Rico or Dominican Republic.
We beat them before. We'll beat them again.
I don't know. Why couldn't we have been put in like Pool A with Chinese Taipei, Netherlands, Cuba, Italy, and Panama?
Why is like China's in it?
Chinese Taipei.
Oh, Chinese type.
not China.
Hey,
Oh,
them
China
little league
isn't.
boys coming out of there be killing it though.
Mhm.
Japan is Japan. Japan's
Japan,
got
Korea,
that.
Australia, China, and Czech Republic are Pool B.
Gee, that's a stacked pool. Jeez. Because Japan's won. Haven't they won 2 titles? And then I think Korea's won 1. Or maybe
Never
Puerto
knew
Rico.
Korea won
won
one
We
actually.
definitely drew the best pool, other than Pool A.
Oh, our pool is like Canada and Great Britain are terrible. They're terrible. I don't think they have any MLB. Like they might have like a handful of MLB players combined between the 2 rosters, but they definitely don't have a lot. So,
Canada has.
but like Great Britain doesn't have any. Like they have 1.
Canada's got Freddie Freeman.
Do they?
Yeah.
Dang. We got Pete Alonso. All right, well let's name off the roster. The pitchers for the most part are no names. I mean, we got Brady Singer from the Royals, who honestly most people may not even know who that is outside
Right.
of Kansas
No
City.
name. What are you looking at?
Makes
All these
you-
pictures are dogs.
Well, most people probably don't know their names.
Devin Williams, Adam Ottavino.
Because nobody can watch the games.
Because nobody can watch that. Yes, thank you, Aaron. Thank you for proving my point. These other 2 clearly didn't understand.
Exactly why Kershaw needs to be on there.
Honestly, but seriously, like the only names I recognize are Adam Wainwright, Brady Singer, Ryan Presley a little bit, Adam Ottavino, Miles McCullis, just because he's in St. Louis. Nicholas.
You gotta know Devin Williams, right?
I don't think so. No.
Oh my god.
I know Lance Lynn because he's been in the league for 20 years.
That's Lynn's on the roster?
Yeah, he's on the rock. Can you believe that? Him and Adam Wainwright both. I can't believe it. They used to be on the same team, though. They used to both pitch for the Cardinals. But
No wonder why Trout and all them dudes are playing. They gotta go out there and score 7.
That's what
runs a
I'm
game
saying.
to
Thank
win
you,
this
Joe.
thing.
Thank you, Joe. Jeez.
I'm just playing. Them relievers are dirty.
They got some good
Starters, eh?
relievers, but look like the starters is what I'm talking about. Like Brady Singer. The only reason I know him because I'm a Royals fan. I don't know if non-Royals fans really know who Brady Singer is at this point because they can't watch the games. Rob Manfred.
That and we stink.
Yes, but that doesn't. You see the freaking
Rob
Hornets
Manfred.
on national TV. You see the Hornets on national TV. You see the Jets on national TV. What's the MLB's excuse? But I mean, you got some really nasty hitters. Oh my gosh, you got JT Realmuto, Will Smith, Pete Alonso, Tim Anderson, Nolan Arenado.
Will Smith is a great hitter.
He is pretty decent. Yes, he is.
He-
He's a pro slap hitter.
For your information, I was Will Smith's coworker. Kinda. I was an employee at the Oklahoma City Dodgers when he was in AAA.
Were you backstage or something?
That's not a coworker, Bert.
We were coworkers. Technically, we were employed by the same person. We were coworkers. But we got Pete Alonso, Tim Anderson, Nolan Arenado, Paul Goldschmidt, Jeff McNeil, Trey Turner, Bobby Witt Jr., the greatest shortstop in MLB history, Mookie Betts, Cedric Mullins, Kyle Schwarber, Mike Trout. Finally going to see Mike Trout in the WBC. Can't wait. And Kyle Tucker from the
Tucker
Astros.
is the same age as me. I did not realize that.
We're old, bro. We're old. But what are your guys' thoughts on the WBC roster? Obviously, I hate the pitching, at least the starting pitchers. We do have some solid relievers. I'll give us that. But the starting pitchers, we have like 3 quality starters. I feel like. What do you think, Siege? I'll let you go since you seem to be so defensive of the pitchers.
I mean, I like our roster. I don't see any issues with it. I mean, you don't really need that many starters. You only play how many games is there? Like possible. There's like
Well, I don't know. We won last time. Let's see what our record was.
5, 6, 7 games possible.
Sure. Sounds right.
I think something like that. So I mean, you don't need that many starters. So get a few good innings and then yank them.
I don't know. I just feel like if
Huh.
Lance Lynn's one of your starters, that's a little worrisome.
Lance Lynn is still got it. He's still throwing. He's good. Either
Lance
way, I don't.
Lynn.
it's
He has
coming out
his
quarterfinals.
2 names start with L's. With L's.
2 L's make a dub.
No, they're just 2 L's.
But I don't know. I like it. I like our roster.
Okay. I mean, I love our hitters. I just think our pitching is a little lacking. What do you think? I didn't even know Adam Wainwright was on it till today, by the way, which is crazy. I love that we're giving him a chance to win a chip or whatever before he retires. But I just, Canada uses retired MLB players, not America. We use current players. What do you think, Joe?
I like our team. I think talent on the hitters is ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think you got dudes like Tim Anderson, the dog, Mookie Betts, dog, Mike Trout, like you said, finally get to watch him. But then you have dudes like Cedric Mullins, who had a hell of a season. Jeff McNeil's a good player. Kyle Tucker balled out this year. So, yeah, I think they're going to be better than what people think. I feel like the no-name guys that, the average fan doesn't know, especially like the starting pitchers. I mean, it's a WBC. Some dudes will come out and perform just in this kind of, make it look like you expect it for the MLB season, and they're nowhere even near that.
To be
So-
fair, we didn't exactly have an all-star roster when we won it last time. So, like an
Exactly.
all-star rotation, I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I mean, the dudes on the last one, I'm trying to think of,
I
was it
can't.
Tanner Roark? He played on the team.
Yeah, he was
You
like
guys
our
remember
ace.
him?
He was like our
Yeah,
ace.
he killed it one game
Yeah,
outside
'cause
of Stroman.
outside of Stroman, yeah. But Strowman was
Yeah.
like the only big dog. Like maybe maybe this is Brady Singer's coming out party. I sure as hell hope so. As a Royals fan, obviously, that'd be great. Because
I
who
mean, there's your
was
chance for it.
what Royals player? Hosmer was on it, but there was a Royals pitcher on it last time. I can't remember who.
Duffy.
Was it Duffy? That's right. Okay.
hmm
And he played terribly.
That's
Didn't
it. And it's crazy because like in WBC, like that last time we won it, Roman and Chris Archer at the time was balling out,
he? Yeah.
and
Chris Archer. I
But both-
forgot about Chris Archer.
Chris Archer could only pitch one game.
Yeah.
The Rays would only let him pitch a game, and
Yeah.
Strowman only got two,
Yeah.
which were, I mean, he went insane on them. But like the big name guys, a lot of teams deny them, so which is why we always
Right.
can't get them. So
Right.
these other dudes, they go on there, no limit, no nothing, and they go all out. And I mean, hey, Brady Singer might pop off or something. Never know.
I hope so, man. I mean, he had a great season last year, finally showing his potential and all the hype that he had coming into the league. I hope his buddy Jackson Kowar can also kind of step it up a little bit because he has been anything but what his cheese. I'm so sorry. He is anything but what his potential showed right now, and he looks scared of the moment, which is just disappointing for Jackson. But move back to the WBC. Aaron, what do you think of our roster right now? I know you don't watch a ton of baseball, but you got to be happy seeing Bobby Witt Jr. and Brady Singer on there as a Royals fan, huh?
All I know is that somehow the MLB is going to screw us over, and just because there's some MLB players playing a baseball game, we won't be able to watch it.
You're damn right we won't. Sorry, I got carried away.
That's why we need to go to Phoenix and buy tickets for $28.
Are there games in Phoenix this year?
$28.
Yeah, that's where
Really?
the U.S. is playing. Is in Phoenix.
What y'all boys doing?
We trying to live stream this, bro?
What's the
Let's live stream a
plans?
WBC game. And hope no one sees because we might get arrested for that.
Just don't show the game.
Yeah.
Face the entire time.
Yeah. But yeah, no. I mean, I think the team's gonna be good. I mean, I think we're gonna make it. I think we're gonna win it all. I always think we're gonna win it all because I have faith in my team's Siege. It's understandable that you don't, though. You're an Oklahoma City Thunder fan, so
And
Do you think that the Royals are going to win the World Series?
Last time they had faith, they got burned pretty bad.
poor guys. Yeah, of course the Royals are gonna win it all. I actually did make a joke that I should bet on that before the season, just $10 on it, because I'm sure it'll win me like thousands.
10
of
million?
dollars. I'm sure it'll win me
Yeah.
thousands of dollars if it actually happens.
I'll look it up for you right now.
Yeah, you do that
Let's
while
keep
we
talking.
while we move on to the NFL, because we're like an hour in now. Yeah. So, NFL, a lot of big news coming out of the NFL. Eric Bieniemy, offensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs, has agreed to a deal with the Washington Commanders to become their offensive coordinator and assistant head coach. So, what do we think about that? Do we think Eric Bieniemy just kind of moved laterally, or do you think the assistant head coach title is more of a sign of things to come for him in Washington? Maybe being next in line once Ron Rivera either hangs it up or gets canned. What do you think, Joe? Do you think Eric Bieniemy maybe has a chance to be head coach of the Commanders here soon?
I said the Commanders, but I think this next year or two is going to make or break Bieniemy's career. Just the way the league goes. Once you get labeled one thing, you kind of hard to break out of, especially for players.
Right.
But I mean, he couldn't get it out of the shadow of Andy Reid. Then again, it's just it's tough not to. I mean, it's
Sure.
Andy Reid, Hall of Fame coach. You know what I mean?
Yeah, top 5 coach of all time, probably.
Yeah, and especially now. And so I think if he goes and his offense drastically improves, you can tell his coaching had the impact, that they wanted to see. He'll be gone after next year,
Yeah.
I think. But, that's why I also say, it could even be 2 or 3 years because you need time to develop your team and your
Sure.
roster and stuff like that. But if he goes, I don't think it matters the talent difference. If he goes there and they're one of the worst offenses in the league, I don't think anyone starts to look at him again as a head coach until he does it what he does in Kansas, like he did in Kansas City, without Andy Reid. So I don't know. We'll kind of see.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I hope, I wish him the best. I hope he succeeds over there. I hope he gets a head coaching job soon. I think Ron Rivera is kind of on the verge of getting pushed out over there. I think if they start kind of slow this next season, I think he gets canned. So I think them putting the head coach label on him kind of lines him up as being the successor, obviously. Siege, did you get me those odds on the Royals
Yeah.
winning the World Series?
There is 5 teams with worse odds than the Royals to win the World Series. The Royals are at plus 20,000 right now. So if you put $10 on, you'd win $2,000.
Okay, so everybody out there watching, if you can afford to lose $10, only if you can afford to lose $10, go ahead and place a $10 bet on the Kansas City Royals to win the World Series.
If you bet on the A's, though, it'll be 10,000 if you bet 10,000.
Right, but the
Oh,
Royals,
we putting it on the A's this year, baby.
the Royals are better than the A's. The A's left Kansas City, so they suck.
Everyone remember to gamble responsibly.
Yeah.
That's why they didn't win until
actually,
they
yeah.
left to Oakland again.
Put
with those
the
best
mortgage
players.
on it, boys.
But
Put the mortgage
yeah,
on
yeah.
it.
If the Royals win the World Series, you'll win a lot of money, baby. Let's do it. Let's all do it. I'll put $100 down, win $200,000. Let's do it. What do you think, Aaron? Do you think Eric Bieniemy moving?
Put on disclaimer: this is a one-time bet on the Royals. We don't
Yeah, we do
actually
not.
spend more money on them.
I am
Leave
not
that
a
alone.
financial advisor. I am just simply suggesting if you have $10, you're willing to lose forever and never see ever again. Like just basically flush it down the toilet. Then go ahead and put it on the Royals to win the World Series. Because if they do it, you'll win $2,000. You heard it here first. But what do you think, Aaron, about Eric Bieniemy going to the Washington Commanders? Do you think this is basically his next step into becoming a head coach in the NFL?
Yeah, I mean, kind of like you mentioned whether or not he moved laterally. I think this is definitely a step up because he is going to be the offensive play caller. There's going to be nobody else other than him.
Ron Rivera's a defensive coach, so
I hope for his sake that nothing happens with Ron Rivera this year. I hope he's the head coach all throughout.
because you don't
Because
want him
it's
to be a
just-
head coach of the Washington Commanders.
No, if he becomes the head coach mid-season, that's just
Yeah,
a shit show he's getting thrown
It's
into.
hard to, yeah.
yeah, we saw it with
So-
Romeo Crennel back with the Chiefs. That was a shit show.
He also had a shot afterwards with the Texans, didn't he?
That was another mid-season thing, yeah, but I don't think he was in it, and I don't think like with the Chiefs' job, he was actually in position to maybe get elevated to permanent head coach. With the Texans, it was pretty obvious that was just like the rest of the year kind of thing.
Anyway,
So my point,
I think it's just
my
a lot
point is just
harder
that
of a road if he gets
Go ahead.
thrown in mid-season as head coach,
right.
because then they're gonna view the rest of that season as if it was like that's his sample. I think it'd just be a lot better for him to go this entire season as the offensive coordinator and then go from there. Because if he gets thrown in and it's not good, then that definitely doesn't help his chances.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think he's going to be head coach by the end of the season. I think Ron Rivera's doomed. I think they're just waiting for an opportunity to can Ron Rivera. The only reason they didn't last year is because they were this close to the playoffs with basically no quarterback. So I think they're just waiting for that 1-3 run or whatever it may be to finally fire Ron Rivera. And I think at that point, Eric Bieniemy is going to be elevated to head coach, unfortunately. Even though it's probably not going to be the best situation for him, I hope he's able to utilize this opportunity as best as he can and maybe, make a name for himself Hopefully he doesn't stay with Washington forever, because Washington's not the best franchise unless Dan Snyder sells the team.
Which he's like rumored to be. So I mean, that's another thing to keep in mind, whether or not
Right.
the new owner's going to want to
Right.
pick like his own coaching staff, and who knows if Bieniemy's even in that conversation. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he'd probably have to interview all over again if Snyder sells the team. So, Siege, you got any comment on this Eric Bieniemy stuff?
No, I have no comment.
Okay. Let me check to see. Well, we're about an hour 5 now. I guess we'll save the NFL offseason talk for next week. And I'll let Siege go ahead and spoil us with his little surprise topic for the week. Go ahead, Siege.
It's not like a surprise topic. Just like a couple of sports that we don't really get to talk a whole lot about. First off, college baseball. We appreciate the fact that you didn't allow us to see 4 of the best teams play that's on opening weekend. The teams Arkansas, TCU, OSU, Texas, Vanderbilt. We didn't get to watch because it was on Flow Sports. So thanks NCAA. We appreciate that a lot. Opening day of college baseball sucked because we didn't get to watch 4 of the best teams play. So awesome. Thank you for that. Next, a little F1 action. Testing started, what was it, today? I think it was today, this morning. But yeah, so testing started today. For those of you who have watched Drive to Survive, for those of you who haven't, you should, because F1 is becoming one of my favorite sports to pay attention to and follow. But yeah, so
much more exciting than NASCAR.
Oh, it's so much more exciting, so much more fun, a lot more strategy going involved. You don't have to watch people go around in a circle the whole time. Crashes.
It's an oval.
It's fun. Anyway, so testing started today. A big surprise that Aston Martin actually finished with the second best lap time. Fernando Alonso and his Aston Martin finished only 3/100ths behind Max Verstappen in the Red Bull, who won the Drivers' Championship last year. And then Lewis Hamilton in the Mercedes. Lewis and Max are pretty much considered the best two. Lewis finished in 6th behind Lando Norris and his McLaren. So you're starting to see a little bit of shakeup in the cars, at least this first day of testing. We'll see more kind of how as the week goes along with the testing, and then we have the first race next week. So if you haven't watched F1, get into it. It's a great racing sport. I love watching it. And we also have an American racing for the first time in
USA.
Logan Sargent racing for Williams. He finished 10th today in testing. So yeah, so now we at least have somebody in the U.S. that we can kind of cheer for and watch the races and pay a little bit more attention to. So yeah, that's my little update on F1 stuff.
All right, you two had
Also
anything?
got
have
some,
anything bad?
We've also got some good golf coming up. Some
yeah.
exciting tournaments. Siege and I were talking about that a little bit before.
You guys watched the show yet?
I'm watching it. Yeah, it started.
Yeah, I like it.
Great, I love it.
Really puts Kepka into perspective.
Oh, I know.
Drive to Survive changed it, man, for sports.
Yeah.
The little behind the scenes documentaries, basically, the following like of each player too. That's a dope move by them.
We're supposed to get
The
one
NFL's
for the
supposed to have
NFL
one.
soon. Yeah, the NFL's supposed to have one with like Kirk Cousins, Patrick Mahomes, and Marcus Mariota. Yeah.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah, that'll be
cool.
fun.
The golf one is weird though, just seeing how after tournaments it's just like they walk to their cars and they just go home and
It's just
That's
a
so
normal
weird.
day.
I was
They're like
wondering
normal
what
people
they
after.
do. Yeah, I was wondering what they do after tournaments because you just got done shooting a 5 under at the freaking Masters, and you're just walking to the parking lot, hop in your 2012 Mercedes and drive off. Like, how does that work?
Like,
Whoa! It's
Weird.
probably a
Not a back
2022
road
at this
spot.
point.
Maybe you save money. I don't know. Maybe it's what's his face, Phil Mickelson, and he's just like, I don't need to spend any more money.
Nah, he's out there rolling with the Saudis. He's driving Lambos every game now.
I forgot he
Kidding me?
joined the Saudi League. Yeah.
The old
Yeah.
live tour.
Yeah. Well, I guess that'll bring us to our random sports fact of the week. We'll go with F1 this week since you brought this to our attention, Siege. Formula One driver Sebastian Vettel wears lucky coins in his racing boots. F1 drivers are well known to be a superstitious bunch, and three-time world champion Sebastian Vettel is no exception. When driving for Red Bull, he reveals that he usually wears a lucky coin tucked into the laces of his boots when he's driving. So, I guess it pays to be superstitious because this dude's a three-time champion, ladies and gents.
Yeah. I don't blame him because if you're going into a wall at 200 miles an hour, it's probably not the best thing for your body.
Yeah,
You need to
yeah.
Find a way to get a
Good
hold
to
of
have a
that
little
coin.
luck on your side.
Maybe the coins are extra protection just in case so he doesn't break his foot, because he needs that foot for acceleration and deceleration. Thoughts?
He needs both feet to do that.
Well, then he wears coins in both feet.
Hey, C's, what did you? Sorry, real quick backtrack to F1. What did you think about Alonso finishing second though, in the Aston Martin at the top?
Dude, it was really surprising. It makes me happy to see some of these like lower tier teams kind of being able to finish higher up than maybe you would expect because I mean Aston Martin, they were decently competitive last year, right? So that was cool.
He was.
But yeah, he's a great driver. But seeing these cars like even Alex Albon and Logan Sargent in the Williams cars, they're finishing in the top 10 and
Yeah,
especially
that's big
first
time.
week of practice. And just seeing the teams that weren't so advanced in years past kind of make that jump and at least be able to perform in the first week of testing, it's pretty exciting to see it. I think it'll be good for F1 to have some of these lower tier teams kind of make that step up and close the gap between like the Red Bulls and the Ferraris and Mercedes.
Yeah. Maybe we should find a way to get Vettel's coins. Put him in someone else's shoes.
That'll do it for us here at Swivel Chair Sports, episode 12. I always forget to say it, but make sure to like and subscribe if you made it this far into the video. Appreciate you. And for any of those who are frequent viewers of our content, all 12 of you, because I think we have 12 subscribers now, we will starting next week, we will be switching to releasing on Tuesdays. We'll be recording them on Mondays from going forward and releasing the videos onto YouTube on Tuesdays. So look out for a new video on us as soon as next Tuesday. And hopefully you'll see some improvement from there on out. But I guess that'll do it for us here at Swivel Chair Sports. I've been your host, Zach Circleberg Burkle. Here with the coach today, Aaron, Siege, and Joe. Go ahead and say bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
We out.
Later. Thanks for watching. Appreciate y'all.
All right. Well, we will see you next week. Thank you for watching, and deuces.